Goals World Cup Clubhouse. This is a conversation that we do every Monday where we talk to teams that have playing in the Global Goals World Cup earlier. And today we are talking to the team Sea Warriors that played in Dubai in 2018. And we are together from now, I mean, Dubai, Scotland. Eva, where are you from, checking in from?
I'm also in Dubai.
Okay. Perfect. So it was in Dubai we played, and I remember you coming into the tournament with walking like this, yeah, you know. And I think for it's not for the first time people learn about sharks. We have, of course, knows a lot about the sharks, but the level of information that you had and you shared at the time, I think, was mesmerizing all of us to kind of take this deep breath of saying that these are some of the oldest creatures in the world that has such an impact in the ocean. So we really want to hear about this also today. I just want to tell everybody that is listening in, if you're listening in for the first time, then when you play in a Global Goals World Cup, you, after each game, you get 4 points. So there's one for creative style, and that is, of course, we have to battle ourselves in upcycling and recycling and thinking about what we are wearing. We get points for activating the crowd, because we have to speak up about the goal that we're playing for and do that kind of activations for the global goals. We get 1 point for actually winning the football game, which is, of course, for us, it is a game we're playing and it's fun to play. And it also says that we are 20% more creative when we move and activate our bodies. So a big reason for the sports part. And then for the activation for one of the global goals that we picked to play for. So that's why understanding the concept of when we talk about and ask the teams about what have happened since 2018 played and what kind of activations that you were doing and what impact it had for you playing at the time. But I would love to throw in as the first question to you is and just say who you are a little bit so we make sure that we talk to everyone in this. But how are people and how are the ocean being impacted right now? Or maybe mostly, how are the oceans being impacted right now in the time that we're in now?
Okay, so I'll start off. My name is Natalie Banks and I'm the founder of Azraq. We've had some really interesting episodes happen throughout the whole of the UAE whilst we've been in lockdown, where we've seen quite a few marine sightings of animals in packs that have been larger than what we've seen previously. So where we may have seen an individual cow-nosed ray, perhaps at the marina, we're now seeing packs of individuals or more. We had an incredible sighting just recently, earlier this month, where we had over 2,000 Risso's dolphins seen in Fujairah with one rare albino in between the pack. And that has never been recorded, those numbers or an albino in the region before. So we've seen some amazing sightings and there've been an increase in sightings, whether or not people are sort of sitting in their apartment balconies and being able to see them more, or the animals are actually coming closer to the shore or to places where they haven't perhaps felt comfortable enough to visit. We're now seeing these incredible species in places like the marina, where you wouldn't ordinarily see things like spotted eagle rays, for example, which is really exciting to see 2 of those last month.
So that sounds amazing, but is that because, I mean, all work have been slowed down completely, so there's suddenly not enough, or not, boats and stuff like that that are disturbing the oceans? Is that why you see them getting closer?
I would say noise pollution has decreased whilst we've been in lockdown. Boat movement has also stopped or reduced, and even pollution itself. So there's a couple of factors, but as I said, it could simply be the fact that these animals are actually just feeling more comfortable going into these places where perhaps they may not have felt as comfortable because of the amount of people in the area. But Gemma probably near where she is, she may have some things happening in Scotland as well.
Yeah, so obviously a little bit colder climates here. we do get whales and we do get dolphins and we do get the occasional mola mola, which is really exciting. Obviously, we don't get offshore as much as what I did in Dubai, but certainly, you know, anybody that follows any form of environmental headlines at all will see that all across the world, you know, turtles are returning to beaches to lay the eggs where they haven't maybe been found in years. And when I lived in Zanzibar, we did a lot of turtle monitoring, and we tagged all the turtles, and it was amazing to see the number of turtles that would come back year after year to exactly the same spot in order to nest. So there's been beaches, and I think especially across India are mainly the headlines that I've seen, where obviously the population is so dense and the pollution, etc., are so dense in India. And now that started to clear up a little bit because of lockdowns and isolations, turtles are starting to return to these spaces because, you know, they're under a little bit less threat, shall we say. I mean, unfortunately, a species like a turtle will always be under massive threat. You know, they're still eaten in large parts of the world. But it's just really nice to see species coming back, as Natalie says, you know, in larger numbers, because the effect of humans is affecting them less in their natural habitats, if we like. But in Scotland, since coming back to Scotland, I've been slightly more involved in things like the Great British Nurdle Hunt. So it's effectively, you know, I live a 5-minute walk from the beach here. I'm very fortunate, and I'm very fortunate that we live on a really clean beach. But I think it's really still important to get involved in these type of surveys to assist Britain as a whole. So it's a case of going down there, and it's a case of you know, doing different spot checks, giving coordinates, sending in your results and your findings. So things like the Nurdle Hunt can help the country as a whole, which I've been involved in, and I'm trying to get the little one involved in when she stands still long enough. But yeah, so in terms of what I've been involved in since, it's more been on the kind of pollution and the plastic side of things. Unfortunately, as a really keen diving instructor, I've not been in the water much in Scotland because I'm a little bit more of a fair weather diver, and I've not done my dry suit course yet. So hopefully one day.
Is it fairly easy, or is it possible even to have the conversations right now of saying that? So that means that when I hear you saying that we are suddenly seeing more room for ocean animals, and is it possible to have this conversation in the time right now of the importance of that development? Because I assume that you would think that this is worth activating for, right? That we give more room.
So all over the world, people, you know, we've got this imbalance, or we've got a balance, I guess, development with protection of the environment. It happens everywhere, whether we're talking about marine conservation or forest conservation. We're having to always balance development and providing for people, and ensuring that we're also protecting our environment where possible. And so there has been previously and all across the globe activities in terms of trying to have places of marine protected areas, and the UAE has done this previously, where they have protected areas. So there has been a known population of a species where they will go to a particular area, whether it be to rest, to mate, to birth. And so the government and the people, organisations like Azraq, all tend to try and work together to try and protect areas where animals are known to do those things. We've had, like, for example, just recently an area where jet skiers were being seen and were impacting turtles, and the government responded very quickly to that and made that a no jet ski area. So things like that definitely we need to collect data, and this helps our scientists in some ways. We've got citizen scientists taking place with the activities that are taking from they're being able to see from their balcony, sharing it, and that gives scientists who aren't able to get out there, although that's slowly lifting now, information that they can collect and then provide back to the government to say, you know, is this an area that perhaps we could make a marine protected area?
Interesting.
Yeah. So what I think the tie-in to sport and you guys all coming together as a sports team to participate in the Global Goals World Cup in 2018. I think, I mean, you're all doing remarkable work in terms of marine conservation, protection, environment, sustainability. So what do you think it is about the sport and the platform that it is it helping the work that you're doing? And or you know, some of the ways that the Global Goals World Cup helped contribute to the work you're doing, and also thinking about the bigger contribution of sport towards protecting the environment. I think for me, coming from the sports world, you know, there's a big drive for sport for social change, using sport to address different issues, you know, social issues, you know, around education and gender, and child marriage, or, you know, a lot of different social issues, but much less, I think, still on raising awareness and kind of striving for environmental changes. So given that this is your area of expertise, yeah, I love, you know, thoughts on I guess, yeah, so the value of the Global Goals as a sports-based platform, but also your thoughts on what role sport as a sector could play to try to contribute and to better some of the outcomes for marine conservation.
Okay, so I'll again go first on this, but I don't want to be the only speaker, if that's okay. I'd love to Eva. Eva was our coach, and she was a soccer player before we all got involved. So, and for me, and I know Eva and Gemma as well, we're all scuba divers. So for me, I only got involved in conservation, and you protect what you love. So I only got involved in conservation through the diving community. So prior to that, I only saw the surface, and it wasn't until I saw what's below the surface that I felt extremely moved to do something to protect it. But I've been involved in, I guess, in campaigning for 6 years now, and you know, it can take its mental health. Like, particularly, I've been on ships sometimes for 3 to 4 months, just working non-stop on marine conservation research and that particular thing. Your mental health takes a massive toll when you're in cramped up areas, like what we're happening in the moment with COVID-19. We haven't been able to get out for a little while there, although that has, as I said, started to lift. So sport for me plays a huge role, because unless I'm healthy body, mind, spirit, I'm not going to be able to do like what I do for a job. So that's my thoughts in that. And for me, when we got together and we had training for soccer, I've never played soccer before. So it was Eva that got me encouraged and gave me the confidence to be able to think that I could, you know, have a go. But, you know, we worked together as a team, and we all came together because we were like-minded in protecting the ocean. But I know we have stories behind us all. So it'd be interesting to hear what the others have to say.
Mm-hmm. So I'll just add something regarding football. We were here to represent the goal regarding the marine environment, but playing soccer as a woman is also a very big and important thing to look forward and to look to. I've been playing soccer since I'm maybe 15 years old, and I actually started in Dubai. And when I started, to find a feminine club here was almost impossible. So I really started with the first feminine clubs that rised here. And we were really the first women to play soccer in teams in a club in this country. And to be able to reunite everybody around the sport made it really such an amazing experience. And I want to add something quite interesting, that I played soccer as a feminine, in the feminine team here, as well as in mixed leagues as well. And it was never an issue. I played also in India in mixed leagues. But when I came back to my home country in France, and I studied in France back for university, and I tried to play again in a feminine team in Paris, I experienced the worst sexism ever. So it's something that was quite shocking for me to be living in a foreign country where soccer for women was not very accepted in the beginning, whereas it was very much respected. And coming back to a European country, where in general France is obviously quite advanced on these things, and to face harsh sexism on the field. So that's something I wanted to say about women and soccer, because I think it's something important as well for you in general. And as well as Natalie was saying, we're divers, and for me it's very recent. I've been a diver just since December, so I barely was able to go underwater since the COVID came straight after it. But I've been really active in outdoor sport, caving, canyoning, climbing. And I think, Natalie, what you said is really, really right. You basically go in the places you want to protect. So whenever I'm with my outdoor community going and practicing these sports together, because for instance, caving is a very much teamwork sport. You're underground for sometimes days with 5 people with whom you trust your life with. So it's something where team spirit is super important, but also you respect your environment. You go there, you want to protect the environment, you want to protect the caves, you want to protect everything, you want to make sure there's no plastic left behind. And this is amazing to always share this. Whenever you go out, you share this with people. And that's, I think, the best part about this type of sports.
I actually do think that football in most of its form should be a lot closer to nature. So I think it could be played so many different places. Of course, it can be played on beaches, but there's so many forests and green areas and cut down areas where it would just be, really suitable for people, because in our minds, the closer we get to nature, the more we protect it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Majken and Marie were just telling me before the call that your entrance onto the field at the Global Goals World Cup was mimicking sharks, like a team of sharks entering onto the field, which I must say is quite intimidating. So just when you cast your minds back to the Global Goals World Cup in 2018, what are some of the highlights and memories that come to mind?
I think we had so many people come up to us and ask us what we were representing, because I think we made a pretty big impact on the field. We were quite loud and quite out there. We were a really supportive team of each other. And it was nice just being able to pass on the message to people who are genuinely interested in the goal we were representing. So yeah, my favorite.
So Eve, can I go there? Would you actually share just a little bit of information that would be amazing information for other people to know about the sharks and the work that you do?
So Azraq has a Apex Harmony campaign, which is about protecting and conserving sharks. There's actually over 30 species of sharks in the Arabian Gulf. And so when you think of the Gulf, you don't actually think it as being so alive with life. And I was surprised some of the species that are in the Gulf that are popular species here are not popular in my own country, of Australia, where sharks are known as being one of those animals in our waters, where there's almost like you dip your toe in and there's man-eating sharks in our waters, which is not the case at all, by the way. So we basically have put sharks at the forefront due to the fact that they need protection, and they're really being fished out for fins, for cartilage, for meat at a rate that is not sustainable. And they're a keystone species, meaning they're what's called an apex predator. So if you remove the apex predator from our oceans, it's a cascading effect in terms of things like coral reefs being impacted by algae, because there's nothing to keep the large fish at bay anymore, which eat the small fish, which eats the herbs on the reefs. So algae starts to develop. Think places like where you have seagrass, which is such an important element to the ocean in terms of sequestering carbon, for example. If you don't have sharks, then the turtles and the dugongs will actually eat non-stop, and there's no longer the seagrass beds that are important for humans and for the climate as well. So sharks play an incredible role, and we tend to sort of see them as these really man-eating species, when there's 3 out of 450 plus species of sharks that really are the ones that are the, I guess, the ones we need to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody wants to add something to that?
The species are doing their own thing, keeping our ocean.
I think, as Natalie said, in terms of like the apex pyramid, I mean, a good
Sorry,
example.
I'm not too sure if you can hear me still.
Oh,
Jim, go ahead.
I think what Natalie was saying in terms of, you know, the balance of the ecosystem and how easy it is to tip and collapse. You know, the sharks being at the kind of forefront of that, and a great example of how misunderstood these, you know, these animals are, is obviously everyone's seen the film Jaws, and you know, that was part of that stigma that's associated with sharks just being terrible man-eating animals. And since, you know, the release and the stigma that's evolved from that movie, the creator Peter Benchley has since become one of the greatest shark defenders and campaigning in the, you know, the conservation of sharks, because he saw the effect on what, you know, a movie that he created therefore did. And I guess he probably felt a little bit of remorse in that, because as Natalie says, out of the 450 plus species that might exist on, you know, on this planet, there is very few, and also the way that shark attacks are you know, are shown these days, you know, it's almost like everything's unprovoked. And, you know, I think people lack the understanding of sharks to understand why they might test, you know, they use different methods of different senses of testing things, and they, you know, they see differently to what humans see. You know, they don't just see a human on the surface and think, oh, that looks really tasty, I'm going to go for that. You know, they're very misunderstood in terms of, you know, the understanding of their behaviors as well. And whereas it's always advertised as shark attack, death by shark, you know, it's all these killer headlines, which journalists, I guess, you know, have to create that, they really have to create that arousal to read the article. So I think it's, as Natalie said, you know, it's such a finite thing to keep the ecosystem on balance, and the shark is such an important part of that, but they're just so misunderstood.
If you could give some advice to other teams that are curious about playing for life below water, what would be some of the things that you would tell them that are maybe most crucial that we pay attention to when it comes to the oceans?
Probably the vast amount of plastic pollution now that's reaching the seas. It's become, I mean, it's unsustainable, the amount of plastic that's going into the water. And since the lockdown, especially here in Dubai, it seems to be particularly bad. They've started putting single-use plastic on shopping trolleys. You have to wear disposable gloves when you go shopping, disposable masks. And a lot of that just ends up on the floor, gets picked up, ends up eventually back in the sea. And it's just, for me personally, that's the biggest issue that I can see. And that's the one I really work towards changing my lifestyle considerably to stop contributing, and trying to raise my son to do the same, hopefully.
Is that for everyone, or have you different passions for
So I'm sorry, but it sort of faded out for me when the question was asked. But I think the question was, what advice would you give other teams? Is that correct? Wanting to sort of
if they wanted to play for life below water, what would be some of the things that you would advise them to?
Yeah, so Eve said plastic, and I think that's definitely one of those. I think there was another team that we played with in Dubai that also had life below water as their goal, and they focused on turtles. And I think, I mean, turtles are such one of those wonderful creatures. We went with the sharks because it's one of those misunderstood creatures, and it has that threatening element. But we knew there was points in trying to get the teams or the audience involved, and the only way we knew that we could get that involvement was basically just to do the shark fin on their head. So that was a simple way of getting the audience involved. But like, there's so many beautiful marine creatures that a lot of people are mesmerized by the beauty of marine creatures, or the ones that they don't quite know a lot about. And so those creatures, the marine creatures themselves, they're so iconic that they almost sell themselves. Like the whale, for example. I mean, it's such a beautiful species. You could do so much around just the whale. Dolphins, loved by nearly everybody. Seals, you know, you name it. There's not a lot of marine animals that stir as much as what a shark does. But like the emotions, I guess, but they do have that iconic beauty, mesmerizing element. So I think, I mean, just focusing on the beauty of what the oceans have is what my advice would be.
I think.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Who is it? Jen. Yeah.
No, sorry. I think as well, you know, if people have the opportunity to understand the ocean, and you know, diving is something which I wish I had done when I was at a much younger age. I've only been diving probably for about 10 years now, and if you want to understand it and you want to see it, like I'm sure Natalie and Eva would agree, like it's, you know, if I had the opportunity every day I would dive. And I think people, if they haven't got any problems, fears of water or the ocean or anything like that, give it a shot, because it's the only way you'll really see the true worth of it, because you can't see anything from land. You really can't appreciate the vast beauty of it from land. So yeah, put the scuba gear on and give it a shot.
So you know that we are coming back to play in Dubai. So when we have finished talking here, I'm going to let Vineetha talk more about it. Hi Vineetha, we'd love to get you back on video. Good to see you. But so if and when, not if, but when we come back to play, probably sometime in 2021, would it make sense to try to make a day or some days event where we invite some of the other teams to come out and try to dive into the ocean? Is that possible in Dubai?
So Dubai, yes. So we can have a talk offline, but I believe it would definitely be an option. I'm a scuba diving instructor as well, and I do go through a school in Dubai that I can operate from. So, but there is limitations as an instructor. You're only able to take at a time as an instructor. So there will be limitations to it, but you know, it just means that we need extra instructors if there's more interest from the people involved.
But we should maybe try to make, it could also be from when we open up team sign up and then up to the period of time that we play, that maybe I can convince you to give a good discount if people wanted to try to go out and dive, because I think, as we also, Eva, as you also said, when you know, the whole idea of really diving in, you know, if it's caging or diving into nature and seeing what nature is about, that's a beautiful treat to give to somebody.
Sure. The other option is snorkeling. It doesn't always have to be diving. You can just put a face mask on. I remember when I first was snorkeling, I actually was 28. I was a lot older than what a lot of people who normally put on a face mask is. And I remember falling in love then and there, and that was my pathway to learning to dive. So it doesn't always be a dive itself.
Snorkeling is perfect. We'll take that as well.
Yeah, and you can get more people when you're snorkeling than what you can taking a dive class.
Exactly. So listen, how do you see the future for the oceans?
Me personally, I think we've got a long road ahead. A lot of factors are impacting our oceans at the moment. Not just the plastic was talked about earlier. We've got microplastics from clothing being washed and going into the oceans. So the washing machine industry also needs to catch up to this problem. We've got climate change. We've got desalination issues. We've got a whole range, like overfishing. The oceans are taking a beating, really, as far as I can see. And I think they've had a little bit of reprieve over the last couple of months, but we need to do more. And so I would love to be able to say to you, oh, look, I can see myself stopping what I'm doing in maybe 2 or 3 years, but I just can't see that happening at all. I actually think that the issues of the ocean is going to go on way past me. and we're going to have to tag team and hand it on to the next generation. And unfortunately, the next generation and the generation after that are going to get a situation much worse than what our grandparents, our parents, and our generation have had it. So I'm an Australian. The Great Barrier Reef is a well-known barrier reef, and it's dying. And it makes me extremely sad to think that the next generation, in my generation actually, that we have potentially got it to a stage where the next generation will not see it in the state that I actually got the benefit to see it in. So that's just heartbreaking. It's the largest barrier reef in the world, and you know, my nieces and nephews living in Australia perhaps will not even see the beauty of that reef. So we've got a lot of work to do. And, you know, we're only a small fish in a very big ocean. So we do need people around the world coming together, working together on this very, very large issue. And remember, our oceans are our life support system. They are our lungs. They give us the oxygen. They give us the food that we eat. If we eat sea fish or seafood, people in the UAE, they give us the water that we drink because it's desalinated straight from the ocean. And they give us an amazing place to recreate. So we've got that and the forest. We've got so much to do in those two spaces, and they're the areas that give us life, those two environments. So we really need to do more to protect it.
I would love to hear from all of you in that sense, right? I mean, about how do you see the future we can add both sport and ocean.
Well, I think Natalie here is the expert on the oceans, but I would add that for me, what's really important, we are in love with the ocean. We really love the marine life. We want people to see it the way we see it and to go and experience it, but you don't need to go in the water and to put your hands there to really make a difference, because of course, the plastic has a huge impact on what's happening in the ocean, but the climate change has also a very big impact, and the climate change is what's making the corals die. So because of the temperature that's rising in the ocean, to be able to change this, it's a matter of how you pollute every day, and it's a matter of being more energy efficient and how you really do in your daily life. So if you're able to pollute less in your daily life, and not only in plastic, I'm speaking strictly about energy efficiency, by in your house switching off the lights when you don't need them, putting your AC at a reasonable set point, don't use it when you don't need it, reduce your transportations if you can co-share cars. I mean, there's so many ways to really make a difference today, and we have lots of technologies today that will actually help impact in this thing. So we should also act a lot on our daily lives, and you don't need to go in the water to do these things. You can do it every day at home.
Eve, what would you add?
Similar to Natalie, I think it's just going to be a constant uphill battle until, I mean, the problem is widely publicized with plastic in particular, but there's not enough people doing anything about it. You go to the shop here and you see educated people from the same background as you using reusable, single-use plastic shopping bags. And they're people that have probably heard about the issues and have children who are going to grow up in this plastic world that we live in. So I think really there need to be bigger government-led, government-backed campaigns to try and bring awareness to it, and just stop producing all these plastic bags and all this packaging. Basically, that's the only way I can see it starting to make any kind of difference, to be honest. I mean, the work Natalie's doing is fantastic, raising awareness for it. It just needs to be taken on now by government initiatives and made the law that you can't use a plastic shopping bag, I think.
Natalie, is this something that Azraq is doing, you know, advocating for policy changes and government intervention?
So we work with government and we work with stakeholders. We're involved in stakeholder discussions. There are Emirates in the United Arab Emirates who are actually already focusing on putting bans on single-use plastics already. It's not a national decision as yet, but what Azraq does is raise awareness, and we actually have got a campaign running actually on plastic bags. So Eve is bringing plastic bags up. It's called My Bag Ain't Plastic, and we've got an activity where people can download a form letter, take it to a retail outlet, and ask that retail outlet to consider an alternative to plastic bags, considering that one emirate in the United Arab Emirates has already said that they're going to ban single-use plastic. This is going to roll out, I suspect. So I don't see why retail outlets wouldn't be willing to take on something like that now, considering it looks like it's going to roll out anyway. So they will need to think about it, whether it becomes law today or whether it's because Azraq is doing something and they've been asked to do something about it earlier. I don't think it always has to be a law for people to do what's right? I think that people need to also take responsibility in their homes, in their businesses, in the industries that they work in. So it doesn't always have to be a government-led thing. It's sort of like we all sit around and we go, this is morally wrong. You know, what are we leaving our next generation? And what legacy are we going to leave? So, and those are the things that I find it difficult and sometimes frustrating when I sit here, and that's my mission and my objective in life is to, I don't have children. I'm not doing this because of a selfish reason. I'm doing this because it's what I believe is the right thing to do. And yet, you know, I find that there's people who have the ability to make a change today, and for some reason they're not always forthright. They're not willing to make that change. And so that can be quite frustrating. But yes, we do activities, and this is our 5th campaign where we're focused on a single-use plastic item, whether it be straws. We've focused on plastic utensils previously. So yeah, the bag this time. We focused on cigarette butts previously as well, because that's the #1 item that we find in a cleanup. So those are the things we actually focus on. And if you go to any of our social media pages or our website, you'll see that our My Bag Ain't Plastic is the current campaign that we're focusing on right now.
Brilliant. No, it's really beautiful what you say there, Natalie, because it's like, you know, you can't sit around and wait for change. Right, and I think it's really remarkable what you guys are doing. You know, you've come together as a team. Eve, you talked about how the noise that you were making at the Global Goals World Cup, and you know, and that creates the interest, right? And you're being positive ambassadors for the social issue that you care so deeply about, and yeah, it's incredibly inspiring. And to feel that there are really simple, tangible things that we can do on a daily basis, because on one end of the spectrum there's all the science and this, you know, in deep scientific knowledge that you guys have, and you're able to translate that to you know, the layperson like me, and do it in a really energetic and motivational way. And then there's just the simple messages about single-use plastic and the things that we can do on a daily basis. So yeah, phenomenal, and keep doing it.
Yeah, well, we hope to see you again in 2021, and we can definitely spread our message further then.
I'm gonna look at Eva and say, Eva, listen, make sure that you all come in and you play and make a team and play in the tournament again, right? And then we would of course love to hear what kind of activations that would you know, what would you pick as a team, as a group, when you're thinking, okay, this is the most important. Before I'm gonna we're gonna finish up with the Vineetha, Jem, I would just love to hear also, what are your thoughts for the future? I mean, you're in Scotland, so you're in Northern Europe and surrounded by ocean also.
Yeah, I think I have to obviously echo what the other 3 ladies have said. You know, like Eve said, you know, government initiatives, or, you know, mandatory things like putting filters on all washing machines. You know, you can have washing machines with filters, but it's not mandatory. So, you know, simple things like that. But again, as Eva said, you know, it's a much bigger thing. You know, 1 to 2 degree change in the ocean water temperature can have such a devastating effect on the coral bleaching and things like that. And you know, this is, as Eva said, it's day-to-day life. It's taking a bike rather than a car. It's changing, it's adjusting your lifestyle and your daily routine ever so slightly. And if everybody does that, then it can make a difference. It is small baby steps, but I think a lot of people think, well, if I go to the shop on my bike instead of my car, it's not a big enough gesture. But if everyone was doing that, then it would start to have an impact. But again, as Natalie said, I think it is unfortunately a long road. And would I love to see my daughter scuba diving and see the things that I've been fortunate enough to see over the past 10 years? Absolutely. But do I think she'll have that opportunity? No, unfortunately, I don't. In the past 10 years that I've been diving, the changes that I've seen dramatically have been devastating. And unfortunately, they're in more kind of third world countries, but also this is the countries, if you look at Africa, for example, they have more, there's more African countries that have banned plastic bags than anywhere else in the world as a continent. So I don't understand as well how third world countries can do that. But for example, Europe, it's, they're beating us by far on things like that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of education to be shared globally. But yeah, I think it's going to be a very long road, unfortunately.
So thank you all for sharing this. I mean, so for anybody listening in, we're talking to Team Sea Warriors who were playing in the Global Goals World Cup in Dubai in 2018. And we're finishing up, and just want to say a huge shout out and thank you. And thank you so much for also the work that you're doing for the oceans, and also just getting, educate the rest of us about all the diversity of what goes around in the oceans when it comes to things that is around all the animals, but also things that are around the plastic that goes into it, and what type of trees that we have to, that protect the ocean shores and stuff like that. So please share also with us more information in this after this talk, and also places where people can go and look at the work that you are doing with your organization. So thank you for this. And then I'll just, Vineetha, if you would just wrap up and talk about, Vineetha is our wonderful partner in Dubai, and we've been doing the Global Goals World Cup together in 2018, and then we also did India in 2019 together. So it's a beautiful partnership. Go, Vineetha. Just need your sound.
Sorry. So yeah, 2018, of course, for us, it was the first time that we brought the global goals into Dubai, and it was a wonderful experience. And I think it was the same with all the teams. They really enjoyed the process. But I think looking forward, after having finished 2018 and 2019 in India, I think we were very much looking forward to the 2020 games in Dubai. But unfortunately, COVID has changed all those plans. But yeah, looking future forward, I think we're looking at 2021 happening. Earlier, we were looking at connecting it back to the expo, but I think, yeah, that's not necessarily the case now. We would look at doing it in some ways. So I think as we start understanding better how the situation is evolving, we should start opening up team sign-ups. But I think what would be different for the global goals, I think in 2021, I think the biggest changes would be in probably in terms of, I think the engagement. I think though 2018 was a wonderful experience, but when we look back, we could think that the engagement could have been much more wider. I think we've, as an organization, also matured over 3 years. We've been involved in some very critical national level projects where we've worked on developing a national index around sustainability. So plugging in those national priorities, which are especially with all of us living here in the UAE, I think that could be a critical point which we take forward during the global goals when we come in 2021. But I think, again, in terms of involving more students, and I think as all of you all were saying that, the change, educating, raising awareness, telling people about the importance of these things, and not just waiting for regulations to do the change. I think that can only come with this kind of mass sporting events, mass awareness, where we kind of involving all sorts of stakeholders, all sorts of organizations into that process and start talking to them. So I think this is where I think for 2021, we had a very exciting lineup of things planned for 2020. So hopefully we can recreate the same thing in 2021, and we are definitely looking forward to it. So we'll definitely keep all of you informed on how things are moving, and once we start opening up team signups. So looking forward to seeing all of you guys there once again and having fun.
That's great. And thanks a lot.
We'll just leave on that one and see you in 2021, whenever that is, and just keep on doing what you're doing. It's just amazing, and thank you for being here today.
You're welcome. I need to get Gemma over from Scotland and do it.
I'm sure you can twist my arm. I'm sure, you know, on a rainy day back here in Scotland, I'm sure you can twist my arm.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. All right, take good care of yourself, and we'll see you.
Bye. Take care. Stay
Thanks
safe.
so much, you guys.
Bye, everyone.
All the best.
Bye. See you.